Hello, and thank you for spending time with us today to learn more about Cape Town and the Western Cape as an investment destination of choice. My name is Emer Costigan, and I'm the Acting Head of Investment Promotion for Wesgro, the Trade and Investment Promotion Agency for Cape Town and the Western Cape. Let's have a look at some more information about our region, and we'll take a little bit of a dive this morning into the manufacturing and tech sectors in particular. So as I mentioned, Wesgro is the official tourism, trade and investment promotion agency for this region. We are the officially mandated agency that executes across all three of these pillars. So our tourism pillar includes promotion of Cape Town as a business destination, and we also have an air access program, which is very significant for our investors as well, as they work with airlines to increase the number of direct routes in and out of Cape Town. We'll speak about that a little later. The other pillars are, of course, trade, which mainly focuses on exports out of the Western Cape, and our team, the investment promotion side. And all of the work we do at Wesgro is underpinned by a phenomenal research division. So we focus on data-driven decision-making. The key services that we offer include things like strategic matchmaking, site location, facilitating access to finance. We'll speak a little bit about the one-stop shop, which is a great resource for investors coming into our region. And obviously, we work with our governmental partners to provide linkages across those departments for our investors. The Western Cape is very well connected. Just to give you a bit of context and situation, you can see the map of South Africa. We're here at the southern tip of the African continent. And Cape Town Airport has been ranked 23rd in the World Airport Awards recently, the best airport in Africa. We also have 3 international seaports in our province, being the Port of Cape Town, as well as Saldanha Bay and Mossel Bay. We have a sophisticated and well-maintained road infrastructure, and you can see the main routes out of Cape Town into the rest of the country and beyond. And Cape Town is home to 4 top universities and 2 business schools, providing an incredible talent pipeline for companies establishing themselves here. And the logos of those institutions are at the bottom of this slide. I made reference to our air access program. Obviously, over COVID, the number of routes in and out of Cape Town reduced dramatically, but fortunately that team is really regaining a lot of the ground that it had made progress with prior to lockdown. And we're seeing the return of the welcome return, I should say, of a lot of those international routes, including routes into North America via Atlanta and New York. Just to share a little with you about the leading sectors that are represented in the Western Cape economy. We have many of South Africa's top retailers headquartered in the Western Province. We've had a very strong performance in agriculture exports, and therefore agribusiness is hugely important to our province in terms of the economy and jobs, with local leading groups like Pioneer Foods and Rhodes headquartered in this region. Asset management is another significant sector for us. Sustainable energy is a growing area of focus for the province. We have a thriving tech ecosystem, and we're going to speak a little about that later. BPO is responsible for a large number of jobs in our region, and particularly in Cape Town. And there are world-leading players in this space situated here. And oil and gas, agriculture and tourism are also well represented in the Western Cape economy. And you can see some of the names of recognizable companies on this slide. I made reference earlier to the Invest SA one-stop shop. So Wesgro runs this particular unit on behalf of Invest SA or Invest South Africa. It's a phenomenal resource for investors that brings together over a dozen role players that can help smooth the way for investors in terms of getting established and up and running and operational. So some of those players include the national governmental departments of the Department, the DTI, the Department of Labour, SARS, which is our revenue commissioners, as well as the Red Tape Reduction Unit, which is an innovative part of the Western Cape Provincial Government. And they are really key to, as I said, smoothing the way for investors and enabling them to get up and running in as straightforward a way as possible. To put the South African and the Western Cape economies in context, for those of you that may be less familiar with the sub-Saharan region, this demonstrates where South Africa sits as an economy relative to other countries in this region. You'll see South Africa sitting just behind Nigeria. What's perhaps even more interesting is where the Western Cape sits. And here we're obviously hypothesizing where the Western Cape would sit were it a sub-Saharan African country. And it comes in ahead of some of South Africa's neighbouring countries like Mozambique and Botswana. In terms of where the Western Cape sits relative to GDP per capita, you'll see that it's an even more interesting result, coming in at number 5 overall for the region. Again, in terms of GDP per capita. So the Western Cape economy is largely driven by the services sector. You'll see finance, real estate and business services being the most well represented sector in our economy. And this will include tech. Coming in second place is manufacturing, and we'll delve a little deeper into that just now. It's worth noting as well that the rate of unemployment in the Western Cape is relatively low. You'll see here in the first 2 columns, this represents the rate of employment in our province, and you'll see it's coming in well below the national average, represented by the 2 horizontal lines. So to speak a little bit in more detail about manufacturing, let's have a look at who the biggest manufacturing sectors and players are in South Africa. So food and beverages comes in just ahead of petroleum and chemical products, with basic iron and steel and wood products a little further behind. The key opportunities that we focus on in the Western Cape are around subsectors like boat building. So you may be aware that we are the 2nd largest producer of catamarans in the world. Alongside that is marine manufacturing and engineering, looking at components for marine manufacturing in particular. Furniture and clothing and textiles, which has a deep history in our region and is also well represented. Ship rig repair and maintenance is a growing subsector for us, as is medical devices, and it dovetails nicely with the health tech opportunity, which we'll also refer to later in the presentation. Why do we believe you should invest in the Western Cape? Well, there is an incredibly high standard of living. We have a skilled workforce available. We have access to markets via our 3 ports, including the Port of Cape Town. We've spoken about the increasing number of direct air routes in and out of Cape Town International Airport. We believe there is space in the manufacturing sector here for businesses of various sizes. And the way has already been shown by a number of large established firms. And we're the only significant industry on the African continent with close ties to the African Union and to other African countries. So to change direction a little bit, let's talk a bit about Cape Town as Africa's tech capital. Digital skills in the region are something that we are proud of and continue to work on and develop as well at the same time. So I referred to the 4 third level institutions that we have in place. This slide tells you a little bit more about those 4 institutions, which, as you can imagine, are very key to the success of the tech sector in our region. These institutions are supported by coding academies, as well as a couple of internship programs that provide a trusted source of interns should companies require them in their operations. Across these 4 universities, the region is producing 12,000 graduates in the sciences, engineering, and commerce fields. When it comes to developer salaries, which is obviously a key factor that investors consider, there isn't a huge variation within South Africa. So the difference between salaries in Cape Town and Johannesburg is not huge. However, what's more noteworthy perhaps is the difference between early stage developer salaries in South Africa compared to in countries such as the US. Or the UK and Netherlands. So you'll see that it really is significantly higher in those countries. Cape Town provides an awesome place to network. It is a hotbed of innovation and collaboration. It's host to a number of very dynamic events. We've recently hosted Africa Games Week, for example. And there's also a number of key initiatives and programs around which the sector mobilizes and collaborates, and those are listed in the second line in this slide. Some of the areas of innovation that we are particularly proud of in our region include green tech, fintech, EdTech. We've seen some very strong players emerge in that sector in recent years. Health tech is an interesting new opportunity. Agri-tech, of course, dovetails with one of our province's key capabilities and one of the main drivers of our regional economy. And this slide simply demonstrates some of the success stories of our tech sector in recent years. To summarize, when it comes to our tech ecosystem in this part of South Africa, we have about 450 to 500 tech firms in the region, and we speak about a tech corridor between Cape Town and the nearby town of Stellenbosch, which is about 50 kilometers away. And along that tech corridor, there are more technology firms than you'll find in Lagos, Nigeria, or in Nairobi. There's over 50,000 employees in this sector, as well as over 36 accelerators and incubators, including some of the oldest in the country and most well established in the country. We also have extensive broadband and fibre penetration. We have 30 co-working spaces. We have phenomenal industry support from the players that I mentioned. Wesgro is a key part of that system, along with organizations like Silicon Cape, Green Cape, the Stellenbosch Network, and various others enablers of the digital economy. And I referred earlier to some of the leading industry events that we host here, as well as another key attraction for companies that are based here. So on that note, I'd like to invite you to start a conversation with us to learn more. I'm including sharing my contact details, as well as those of my colleagues who are specialists in the manufacturing and the technology sectors. Let me just stop sharing my screen for a moment and just say that we really hope that you will drop by our virtual stand at the GIC this week. We would love to chat with you. We would love to set up a meeting with you. We'd love to explore your requirements and understand them, and be able to assist you as far as we can and help you get to know the Western Cape offering a little better. So please do reach out and be in touch, and let's start the conversation.